Few figures in ancient Egypt can compete with Cleopatra for fame and mystery. But what was the truth about this queen of the Nile? Known for her beauty, she would also prove to be a keen diplomat, and her political ambition and affairs with 2 Roman generals would plunge the known world into all-out war. This is Knowledge Voyage. Cleopatra is famous for her beauty, but the question is, what did she actually look like? She was a descendant of the Greek conquerors of Egypt, so would probably have had European Mediterranean complexion and features. Born in 69 BC, she was part of the Ptolemaic dynasty that had ruled Egypt since the days of Alexander the Great. She spoke multiple languages, which included the language of the Egyptians, in sharp contrast to her predecessors who mostly spoke Greek. Her name comes from the Greek kleos, meaning glory, and patros, meaning father. In other words, her name meant glory of the father. Hieroglyphic inscriptions have also been found, where she is given titles like the Great Lady of Perfection and Sacred Image of her father. At the age of 17, her father died, and she was made co-ruler of Egypt with her brother Ptolemy XIII, who was also her husband. Incestuous marriage was actually quite common in the Egyptian royal line. It was clear, however, that her brother/husband was the real power, and Cleopatra looked destined to spend her days looking pretty on a throne. But this was all about to change thanks to world events. And the beautiful and ambitious Cleopatra would not let the opportunity go to waste. At the other side of the known world, Julius Caesar had been busy conquering France in his Gallic Wars, and his open disobedience to the Roman Senate had led to civil war. At the Battle of Pharsalus at the end of this civil war, Caesar defeated his rival Pompey. Pompey fled to Egypt, which at the time was not a Roman colony, and therefore he believed that outside of Rome's reach he would be safe. However, Ptolemy XIII, that's Cleopatra's brother and husband, believed a good way to win favour with Rome and to keep them away from wanting to conquer Egypt was to have Pompey killed. He sent Pompey's severed head to Caesar, hoping to win favour, but he couldn't have been more wrong. Caesar had actually wanted to take Pompey alive, and then take him back to Rome and publicly pardon him. This would heal divisions at home and secure his own place politically, but with Pompey dead, Caesar could no longer do this. Furious, Caesar set sail for Egypt to confront Ptolemy XIII, who perhaps quite wisely fled the country. Julius Caesar arrived at the Egyptian royal palace, and when he couldn't find Ptolemy, set about giving orders and making himself at home. And it was this moment that the 21-year-old Cleopatra had been waiting for. She knew with her brother gone she could win the favour of Julius Caesar and become the sole ruler of Egypt. But Cleopatra needed to get to Caesar, but the palace was heavily guarded. To get around this, the ever-inventive Cleopatra had herself wrapped in a fine carpet, and this carpet was carried into the palace to be presented to Caesar as a gift. When the carpet was unrolled, the young, beautiful queen rolled at the feet of Caesar with a playful smile, and he was immediately impressed. The two became lovers almost immediately, and when Ptolemy realised that his wife and sister was about to usurp him, Ptolemy attempted to rise up, only for Julius Caesar to crush the rebels. Cleopatra and Caesar then took a lover's cruise up the Nile for several days, winning over the priestly class that dominated the power centres deeper in Egypt away from the capital. Cleopatra waved her lover goodbye as he set sail for Rome. She would soon give birth to his son, Caesarion, or Little Caesar. Things could not have been better for both Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. Julius Caesar had secured the allegiance of Egypt with its strategic position in the eastern Mediterranean and its plentiful wealth, particularly its food. Cleopatra had secured her position as the sole ruler of Egypt, and she had also secured the most powerful man in the world as her protector. But things were about to get interesting. After not hearing from Caesar for some time, Cleopatra decided to travel to Rome unannounced, and Caesar was deeply shocked when she turned up outside the city. However, he wasn't the only one to be shocked, because now Cleopatra learned that while he was gone, he had been bedding other powerful women across the empire. We are sure this made things more than a little awkward. Lovers' tiffs aside, the Roman Senate were furious that a foreign ruler like Cleopatra could show up in Rome unannounced. This may explain, at least in part, why during the Ides of March festival, Caesar was murdered. And not long after this, another civil war broke out in Rome, as ambitious senators and generals attempted to fill the power vacuum. Cleopatra was now in a terrible situation. Her protector, Julius Caesar, was gone, and Rome was again at war. She had to pick a side, and if she picked the losing side, the winners would almost certainly invade Egypt and depose her. But luckily for her, she chose to back the winning side, and this side was comprised of 3 men, who split the empire up between them for administrative purposes. Octavian would be the emperor, and he would run Western Europe. Lepidus would rule North Africa. The last man, Mark Antony, would run Greece and Turkey. As the man in charge of the Eastern Mediterranean, Mark Antony's job was to confront Cleopatra about her future intentions and allegiances. However, Cleopatra would once again show the flair, spontaneity, and generous application of sex appeal to political advantage. Cleopatra received Mark Antony whilst dressed in a suggestive Roman-style toga and fashioned herself on the Roman goddess of love and sex, Cupid. Mark Antony was blown away, and fell for Cleopatra almost immediately. Mark Antony and Cleopatra embarked on a steamy love affair, during which time Mark Antony killed Cleopatra's sister at her request so as to secure her position at court. Mark Antony then left for Rome, leaving Cleopatra pregnant with twins. She gave birth to a boy and a girl. Sometime later, she inquired about Mark Antony and found out that his first Roman wife had died, and he had since remarried another Roman woman who was also pregnant. Cleopatra is not having any luck with these Roman men. However, his Roman wife gave birth to a girl, and already viewing himself as a future king with a line of male heirs, Mark Antony threw his lot in with Cleopatra. Cleopatra had at least given him a son, and shortly after rekindling their romance, Cleopatra gave birth to a second son. Mark Antony awarded Cleopatra lands in what is now Israel, which brought her face to face with the famous Herod the Great. This is the same Herod the Great who decades later would attempt to kill the infant Jesus when informed of his birth by the Persian Magi. Herod detested Cleopatra, and secretly pledged to back any Roman who would move against her. This may explain his cosy relationship with the Roman authorities decades later. Mark Antony and Cleopatra had become increasingly flamboyant, proclaiming themselves divine and commanding worship from their subjects. They also held lavish parties where they dressed as figures from mythology. This shows Cleopatra's taste for fancy dress was alive and well. This decadence worried the Romans, and Mark Antony, who was supposed to be guarding the empire's strategically sensitive eastern front, appeared to be somewhat distracted. This was compounded by his military failures. Mark Antony led a campaign against the Parthians of Persia, which went spectacularly badly. On the way back from Persia, he lashed out at the Armenians and stirred up anti-Roman resentment as a result. Despite his failings in Parthia and his unwise actions in Armenia, Mark Antony still vainly held a victory parade, but did so in Egypt, not in Rome. This was unheard of and suggested he was shifting the centre of power from Rome to Egypt. Emperor Octavian was furious and told his scribes that Mark Antony was, quote, bewitched by that cursed Egyptian. The final straw was when Mark Antony promised to award his son, quote, lands to the west, which Rome interpreted as their own territory, and they were not about to allow a love-struck general to hand over Rome's hard-won territory, and they gathered an army. Mark Antony decided to confront the enemy, and his wife Cleopatra sent a naval force to support his land forces. And at the Battle of Actium in BC 31, Mark Antony's forces were completely defeated, and Mark Antony fled by ship back to Egypt with Cleopatra. The two of them then wrote to Emperor Octavian, apologising and begging for forgiveness, and offering to resign their posts and live as private citizens for the rest of their life. But Octavian would hear none of it. He wanted to teach Mark Antony a lesson, and sent his forces to Egypt to get him. Mark Antony knew all about Roman revenge and what they did to prisoners. Not wishing to die in the arena for the amusement of the crowds, he committed suicide. Cleopatra gave her lover a lavish funeral, and decided to join him in the afterlife. The ever-flamboyant Cleopatra had one last act. She ordered her servants to draw a bath, and after a sumptuous meal, clasped a venomous snake to her body and allowed it to bite her to death. She would soon die. Later, when Octavian arrived, he had the door of her apartment broken down to find her lifeless body. Cleopatra had arranged for her son to be smuggled to safety, but Octavian's forces captured him. Octavian coldly remarked that it is possible to have too many Caesars, and ordered the young boy to be killed. Egypt was now a Roman province, and its most famous queen was dead at just 38. Cleopatra may be gone, and her reign was short, but no Egyptian ruler, with the possible exception of Tutankhamun, has more captured the popular imagination. There has probably never been a female ruler more famous and flamboyant than her. It is said that she chose to die by snakebite because the ancient Egyptians felt dying by snakebite would guarantee immortality. If there are many plays, video games, TV shows and movies or anything to go by, it looks like she got her wish of immortality after all. Thanks for watching everyone, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.